Welcome to the Healing Circle. I'm Christine, founder of Embodied Energy Wellness, a shamanic energy practitioner and soul guide. This is a space for honest conversations about healing, awakening, and the moments that shape us. We all carry a story, and this is a place where those stories can be shared, witnessed, and gently healed, together in community. This isn't about fixing yourself, it's about remembering yourself. Take a deep breath. You're very welcome here. Just a gentle note before we begin, some topics discussed in this episode may touch on trauma, loss, or sensitive life experiences. Please take care of yourself as you listen and engage in a way that feels supportive for you.
Today's episode is raw, real, and deeply human. I'm joined by my guest, a single mom navigating life with extraordinary resilience, balancing full-time work, parenting a teenager, a recent type 1 diabetes diagnosis, divorce, financial pressure, and relentless workplace stress. This conversation isn't about toxic positivity. It's about what really takes to keep going when you feel one breath away from burnout, and how we find moments of strength and hope and self-compassion in the middle of these energies at these times. Hello, my guest. How are you today?
Hello, I'm very good today.
Good. Can you tell me, where will we start in this conversation? This is a big conversation now, and I think a lot of our listeners can relate to the workplace stress, adding on top of everything else that we have in home life. So can you take us from where you feel the start of it all?
I think, from a young age, there was a challenging kind of upbringing. Great childhood, don't get me wrong. Lovely, happy memories. But there was always financial strains, and, I was one of four to a single mum who was trying to support all four of us on her own. So from a young age, if there was a difficulty in the house or a difficulty in your life, it was kind of like, I really, you just kind of need to brush yourself off and get back on with it, because there just wasn't time to sort of be able to process or sit with those feelings. And it was a different time.
It was, wasn't it?
90s.
We kind of just got on with it, didn't we? We just that's it, get on with it.
Yeah, but I suppose at the time you kind of think you're dealing with it and you think, oh, well, Jesus, I'm really resilient, I'm well able for that. But then what happens is, as an adulthood, is what became sort of like a snowball effect of, as life started to life and challenges and difficulties started to sort of creep in, you realise, oh, I actually don't know how to cope. I don't know how to deal with or process these feelings, because all I've constantly done is push them down and forget they exist and move on. So I think it started from a young age, of, trying to be the people pleaser as well and not disrupt people. I didn't want to be a difficulty. My mum, was amazing how she was able to raise the four of us on her own in the way that she did, and the challenges that she had, but I never wanted to add to that either. So, having that innate sort of learning from such a young age to not be the problem, or try not to, be difficult or have these feelings that created difficulty for other people, definitely had an effect on me into my adulthood.
A lot of suppressing your emotions as well, just kind of protecting the peace in the home, really, isn't it? Just for our listeners, myself and my guest actually went to secondary school together. So it's a bit like, look, in school we would have had our mask on going, everything is fine.
Totally.
And, we wouldn't even talked about home life, wouldn't we not?
No, I mean, my memories of us in school was actually great crack,
Yeah.
I mean, you were always laughing, you were always smiling, you were always, fun. And I think I wasn't too dissimilar. I was probably just a little bit quieter maybe, but...
No, in fairness, I was very loud.
No, but I was loud, but I think I was just probably shyer. I wish I was more open and bubbly, but I liked to kind of make myself smaller.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all did that. We all came into school and kind of put our best foot forward.
We did, and it's funny, and it's it is like the mask, you know what I mean? It's whatever's happening inside, we'll just put our mask on, we'll just hide it. So, after we left school, then what happens?
I, as a very young teenager, I was young in school, so I was 17, I was barely just turned 17 when I finished 60 or so. I was very young but fairly independent, but I met, what would be my future husband. And at 17, we got together, and he was much older than me. And I suppose I was looking for a father figure, or that sounds kind of strange, but I was looking for somebody to look after me because, that's what I felt, that's what I needed. And I misplaced the care or the attention that he was giving me, as care, and really it was control.
Yeah.
And it took a long time to realise that it was control. And I was too young to understand really what was going on. And I never really kind of had that sort of teenager, 20s, college, that are like out in the world kind of thing. So by the time I was 24, I had a house.
Wow, that's young.
Far from home. I was, commuting down to the Wicklow Hills, which felt like a million miles away from my family. And
would you say that was done on purpose for control?
Well, I didn't even know this place existed till he told me about it, but possibly, I don't know. House prices have something to do with it as well, but
true.
But yeah, for sure, much more isolating. And, we were married, I was married at 25, mother at 26, it was like very quick turnover. And working constantly. But spiraled then a little bit more is after a few years realizing that there was something kind of, I'm not going to say wrong, but there was something a little bit different about my child. And by the time we got to the age of 6, she was diagnosed autistic. So we kind of had that challenge on top. While I was feeling very alone and very isolated in my own little world, and also not realizing I was so controlled, not being able to think or have my own thoughts, and finding myself constantly suppressing what I wanted to think because I didn't want to annoy or upset my husband, or disappoint him, because that's something that he used to be disappointed with me if I didn't think the same way as him about something. So it was tough. I felt it was tough, and it had kind of conditioned me in a particular way that I was not just secondary, I was tertiary. I was at the bottom of the pile. Everything else came before me. So yeah, that was very challenging that time, and kind of around when she was diagnosed, I'd had a couple of miscarriages, and then I had a pregnancy that was very complex. Ended up being a fatal fetal abnormality, but in between the diagnosis of something being wrong and losing my baby girl, there was a series of hemorrhages, so I was high risk.
Yeah.
With a child that really needed me at home while I was in and out of hospital, and constantly thinking I was either going to bleed out or die, or and then not knowing what was happening with my baby girl. So, I ended up losing her in circumstances that were quite tragic and difficult, and also unnecessarily traumatic, actually. Just the way things happened in our healthcare system. And then to go on a couple of years later to end up getting pregnant again, which I was lucky, but unfortunately it ended up with an ectopic pregnancy, and I was just lucky to get away with my life, really. So that was the end of my journey of, 5 pregnancies gone, and realising I'd had a fatal fetal abnormality and then an ectopic pregnancy.
The chances it happened that to one woman.
I just constantly felt like I was hit with a bad luck stick. And I'd never really processed. I went back to work after I lost my baby girl after less than 2 weeks, thinking I'll be grand, and just getting on with it. So it was back to this not dealing with and not processing my grief, not processing. But it all came out years later. Years later, it snowballed, and I wasn't coping. I really wasn't coping. And I had started to feel more, but oddly enough, I started to feel more empowered to believe that what I was feeling was okay, that maybe there was something quite right in my marriage, and tried to push back and be myself a bit more. And it did culminate in the end of my marriage, which for me was actually a good thing. But still feeling like a failure as well. that, like, I tried so hard, I worked so hard, but it was really challenging because I didn't know if my thoughts were my own, if my feelings were my own. And I'm still struggling with that today. I still struggle with that. Like, am I allowed to feel these feelings? Or am I being dramatic? Or am I being, selfish? So there's still things I feel with, but I constantly had this belief that life will get better.
You do have a deep
You
knowing,
just,
isn't there? It's your North Star.
it is. And I don't know where it comes from, but it's what holds me together. Even when things just get harder and harder. So, like, it was lockdown that kind of expedited things. Living in the house separately was really tough. He was verbally abusive, so, like, and emotionally abusive, not just to me but to my child, and that was really difficult. That I had to sort of take my power and say, you either go or I go, and that's what kind of instigated that. And it just became myself and my daughter then for, trying to navigate her teenage years with the difficulties and challenges of autism, which people have no idea what it can be like, especially when they look at my daughter and they're like, oh, she doesn't look autistic. And you go, well, tell me what autism looks like. They don't see the anxiety. They don't see the struggles, the stress, the difficulties, the stuff that she said that people misconstrue as rude, but that's how she thinks. And the social difficulties. It's really, really hard.
It's constant worry, isn't it, in the back of your mind? Like, it's you're not just, there's my child, she's grand. It's actually, there's a whole another layer behind a mother's worry with with a child that has those difficulties, isn't it?
But yeah, there's a lot of external judgment too, and I've found it difficult, certainly in the earlier years, where there'd be times there was one time she had a meltdown in a a shopping centre, and I had to physically restrain her. And people just walked past me. Not one person offered to help. Where I had to hold her tightly so that she didn't, like, run away. She's run in front of roads and things like that, in her difficult, overstimulated meltdowns.
Yeah.
And then you're getting judgment, of people and, like, even family sometimes. And I'm not talking about my immediate family. I'm talking, like,
everyone
aunts or
outside
cousins or something, like, whatever. Or people you work with, and you're afraid to talk about it because you're thinking all she just needs is a bit of discipline. So it can be very hard particularly by the time I was, like, doing it on my own, although I will say I've been raising her on my own a lot longer.
Yeah.
Because it was always me going to the meetings. It was always me going to the appointments and everything. And learning and upskilling and going to the courses and etc. to try and do what I could to help her. And, she's turning into this most amazing young woman. She's 18 now, and I'm very proud of that, but she's so individual. But of course I still worry about what that'll be like when she goes out into the big bad world, and how will she cope. And but yeah, I suppose, I have a very, very busy, I still commute, I have a very busy life. And sometimes it's very hard to just stop and be present and think. And then as I thought I was trying to get myself back into gear, I got hit last year with the type 1 diabetic diagnosis, which I think is probably what nearly broke me, and has nearly broken me several times this year. And it's nearly been the feather that's broken the camel's back. And it's really hard.
Yeah. So can you explain to me, someone that's never, like, in the area of diabetes diagnosis, like, what are the symptoms? How does it impact your life on a daily basis?
I decided to start putting myself forward a bit more last year. I said I'll get back into fitness to sort of get my life back into gear, got really into it. And towards the beginning of 2025, I really thought my metabolism had finally kicked in, and I'd lost like 6 kilos in a week. And I was desperately thirsty. I was desperately fatigued. Sometimes feeling very faint even after a workout session, and just thinking I was pushing it too hard, was working too hard, not sleeping. Oh, there was loads of things going on. And I'm at the stage now where perimenopause is talked about, and so you're kind of fobbing it off. It's like those types of symptoms. And
Yeah.
but it was really the desperate thirst that kind of came out after a very hectic circuit training class. And as it happens, my sister is a type 1 diabetic and has been for 35 years. So just asked her, humour me, test my blood. And it was sky high. So that was it then, into the hospital and got hit with that diagnosis. And I just thought, what next? What is the next thing? Like, have I not been through enough? Do I not need enough challenges? Because I don't think people realise, and even having lived with a sister with type 1 diabetes, I did not know the mental load that's involved dealing with it. The spontaneity in life is gone. You know, you can't just go for a walk. You have to look at your blood sugar levels. Have I got enough? Have I got insulin on board? Have I got my snacks? Have I got, so many things. You can't just sit and eat that dinner. You have to plan for it. Sometimes you have to take your insulin 15, 20, half an hour beforehand, depending what you're eating. And you might sit down and eat it and not eat all of it, which is, you're at risk of going low then.
Yeah.
You're constantly having to snack. And it's people think the injections are hard. People think so much of it, is external, is hard. But really, it's the mental load on top of already a busy life, a challenging daughter. Like, she's great, don't get me wrong, but she still has her challenges. Still trying to deal with my trauma, still trying to deal with my grief, still trying to find my own identity and my own emotions. Are they mine? It's been as perimenopause is really fully hitting. I kind of wonder several times right this year, what am I doing wrong? How is this can't be life. This can't be it.
Do you know, like, when, the way sometimes, like, when we go into that mindset of what am I doing wrong? When I hear that from my clients, it's, well, what is your body trying to tell you? Because what's happening to us in the energetic level that we may never understand fully because we're so used to suppressing emotions and our thoughts and just not really showing the world who we really are. The energy then seeps into our energetic body and it kind of stays in our auric field for a very long time. And it's just like what I would describe as sludge, like just a heavy energy in our auric field. When we don't shift and keep our auric fields cleansed and clear, and we'll go into that in a minute now. When we don't go and sit in the emotions that are coming up, the ones that we've been suppressing for a very long time, they manifest into the physical body. And when you were with your ex-husband, that manifested in your womb, and that was your womb trauma. So in our womb is where our sacral chakra is, and our sacral chakra is where we store relationships, emotions, creativity, and sexuality. Those four main emotions and any situations that we're experiencing in our lives are stored in that sacral chakra. And when there is significant trauma around those things, when it's held in the energetic body, it'll seep into the manifest into the physical body. And that's when, you had 5 births. So you had 5 births. One, your daughter is the 5th, yeah? So there's 4.
Six. She was my first, and then I lost 5.
And then you lost 5. What I feel is coming in here is the babies were coming in to show you this needs to be healed. Their soul contract was to come in and be at that small time frame within your womb for you to say, this isn't the right man you're supposed to be with. You're not supposed to be, I'm not supposed to be born, but I'm here to give you a message. And that's like, in our human mind, we're still connected to the emotions of the loss of the child. But when we move and shift into the soul perspective, it's like that baby soul came in to give me a message, a warning to say, this isn't the energy, the frequency between the husband and yourself is not the right level for me to come in. And when we don't listen to that, when we stay in that vibration and we get pregnant again, because obviously you have no problem getting pregnant, it was its soul could be the same soul coming back in and going, "Hey,
Mm.
Mom, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm just a message. I'm just a message." You know? But what's happening is it's stacking up 5 times in order for you then to be like, this has to stop. Could you relate to what I'm saying there?
I can, because when I look back, I will say one thing, because the baby girl I lost, and I called her Dharma.
Oh, lovely.
So, and Dharma means path to awakening and life's purpose. And in fact, the experience of that got me involved in, the repeal campaign. And funnily enough, it's like she gave me a voice. It's like she gave me a purpose. And so in that instance, I thought, like, if I hadn't been through that experience, I wouldn't have been through that experience of engaging with her and reconnecting with her and what she meant to me. And then when the others happened, after that, with the ectopic as well, I kind of thought, I really do feel, certainly for the ectopic, this is the universe, or something is telling me spiritually, this is not for you. And there's a reason. And I would nearly even, I think I've even said it kind of like, sort of like facetiously, there's a reason I didn't have a second child,
Yeah.
Like, not just with that man, but there's a reason I didn't have a second child, and maybe it was a blessing in disguise, and I look at it from that standpoint.
Can I ask you a question? What side was the ectopic pregnancy?
On the right side, and I lost my...
Do you know what? I should have said it before you said it. The right side, particularly in our hips, is where we store our father wound.
Oh.
Yeah. And so your husband, and come here, I can relate to this. This is how many fellas did I cling on to in my teenage 20 years, looking for their father figure to save me, particularly when we don't have a father figure to look up to, or there's a big, huge gap of a non-present father. We go into default mode, majority of us, seeking on a subconscious level that father energy. And what I would feel in coming in is, you definitely went for the older man, because you're like, this is my protector. This will be where I'll be safe and I'll be loved and be fine. But obviously, him not being able to fulfill your needs, because you experienced that as a child, that there was no male there to fulfill your needs. Can you relate to that?
I do, yeah. And I just want to caveat what I've been saying as well, is that my ex-husband's not a bad man.
No.
He's just a product of his own trauma and upbringing, which wasn't easy. We just weren't compatible for each other in the end.
Majority of them are,
But it didn't stop, like, that effect that it had on me at a very young, vulnerable age, where he should have known better.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I just didn't have those tools, but I was so seeking that person in my life to be that figure of care.
Yeah. You see,
that makes sense.
Completely. And, on a subconscious level, he probably saw you and was like, okay, well, she looks up to me so much that I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, probably. And I couldn't, I had to eat, like, if I didn't like certain food, or if he didn't like certain foods, I couldn't eat them. And
it's his way.
It was control. It was control.
Yeah. It's his way or no way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
got very used to that.
Yeah.
That by the time I was free of it, I was like, do I even like this? Is this me thinking these thoughts? Is this me feeling these feelings? Or is this what I've been used to telling myself, or being told that this is how I should feel?
Because you've spent your whole life giving to others, constantly minding others, constantly appeasing others, suppressing your own emotions, your own magic, your own light, in order to mold around other people. So when suddenly then life steps in and you have to break away from them heavy energies, it's like suddenly, oh shit, where am I? What am I? Who am I? Like, I remember from my own journey, I remember stepping away going, I don't even know what band I like.
There was a bit of that, yeah. Yeah.
It's like, is my favorite singer? Haven't a clue. What did I like? And I have to go back before I met my ex to say, actually, I loved Guns N' Roses. Like, do you know what I mean? But I was so like, I don't know who I am. And you go into this
Mm,
freeze mode, don't you? And it's just like, what do I do now?
totally. I can fully relate to that. But still, throughout all of this, still trying to see the positives as hard as they are. And when you're talking about like looking after and, everyone else, if anything, the diabetes, the first thing my sister said to me, she goes, you have no choice now to put yourself first. And it was
See,
so unbelievably amazing to hear that. Because she's like, you actually do not have any choice now. You have to look after yourself first. And it has been an unusual, it's been uncomfortable actually.
yeah, because well, you're not used to putting yourself forward. You're not used to thinking of your health and, your emotions.
And so that
It's alien.
it's because now I'm having no choice. I have to put myself first.
And it's
I have to think of my needs, of my blood sugars. Are they level? Are they not? And if I need to stop and be late for something because I need to get them at a level, I have no choice. I have to sit there and wait until they're level. And like, there's a little bit of it's kind of like a nice little bit of freedom in it as well. It's kind of
Mhm.
like, well, life is not going to end for that other person if I'm going to be a few minutes late because I have no choice. I have to, I have to deal with me now first before I can deal with them.
Yeah. No, and so, and I was just going to say, it's the universe stepping in to teach you that lesson. And, it's not even, it's a lesson that's like, how do I put this in the right words? It's a lesson that has a blessing because you're seeing how putting your health and your needs first is the number one priority before you look at anyone else. It's
Hmm.
always fill your own cup before you fill others. Because your daughter needs you to be healthy. Your daughter needs you to be giving and caring as well to a certain extent, but you can't give when you're empty.
Totally. Yeah. And it took me a lot. It took me to this situation to really realize that. Like
Yeah.
44 years of age, that like that's how long it's taken for me to learn that.
And especially like it is around the like being comfortable with saying no to people.
Yeah, I still struggle with that, and there has been still a little bit of that, but again, it's a process of learning.
Yeah.
I feel like I've still got my training wheels on for that.
Yeah, I think if it's so many years of no, I'm not saying you're too old or anything.
No,
Same age as me. We're so young. Yeah, we're
I
like
know.
so young.
I
Look at us.
do. I still feel young. Oh, I do. In so many
Same
ways, I
here.
feel young.
I always
And I
say
don't
to
know
the
whether
kids,
that's because I spent 20 years like giving myself to, a man who just didn't appreciate me or
mm,
whatever, but I just kind of feel like, oh, of course I'm still young. Still got plenty living.
I kind of feel I'm on the cusp of my next lifetime.
Totally.
It's like, oh yeah, like what happened in the past, that was like the teaching ground. That was like hell, but also fun at the same time. Like there's always the ups and downs, the highs and the lows. But that was my training ground. To now, I'm like, yeah, I have another, like if you think about it, we're maturing and we have
Hmm.
another, I'd say, equal amount of time on the other side of life. Okay. So anything is possible, really.
Oh, totally. And like one of the reasons why I lift in in my gym classes and things like that is because I want to make sure that when I'm like 80, 85,
Yeah,
I can still dance on the dance floor. I could
same.
still like, you know, get myself up off the sofa and, put my own socks on. So like I have full intentions to, you know, grow old disgracefully, perhaps. I don't know, but definitely live as much as I can in the best way that I can despite all the
100%.
crap that's been thrown at me. And I have my dark days. I still have very much my dark days. Still have my
Yeah.
days where I'm confused. But then, I have days like today where I, I look back on the things that have challenged me continuously feeling like I'm being shit on.
Mm.
That, but there's just this thread throughout the whole thing has always been, it will get better. And I just constantly believe that. I do. I truly 100% believe I will have my time. I know I keep trying to think maybe it'll be next year. Maybe it'll be next year. And then something happens to kind of pull me back. I still feel like I'm moving forward.
But you see, you're shedding layer by layer, step by step. It's a process on your healing journey. So it's like a lot of people think, oh, sure, I've done a few healing sessions. I should be healed by now. And I'm like, no, no, no. You could spend your whole lifetime healing, and the next lifetime, and the next lifetime. But that's not to make you despair, but it's progress. Like baby steps all the way, and that's exactly what you're doing. You're working through everything, but you have that positive mindset that it's like, right, I can deal with this, anything, because life is going to throw us loads of curveballs. But what you're like keeping your head up and you're being positive is inspirational as well.
I'm trying to be the best example of a person to my daughter.
And it is,
It's
there's always
okay
that.
to have those crappy days and wallow in it. Like, and feel like if she's having a bad day, I'll let her, do you know what? And if she's upset, like, feel it, let those feelings through. Do not push them down. Let them through, feel them. And friends of mine or anything like that, if they're having a bad day, I'm like, that is shit that's happening for you. And I'm really sorry, but feel it, go with it, process it. Because that's what I'm having to do myself. Because I know the opposite of pushing it away, suppressing it, dismissing it, minimizing it, is doing absolutely nothing for me.
It comes back like an avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
Before we finish up, do you have any wise words for our listeners today who may be experiencing something similar?
I think probably what I just said there maybe
Yeah.
is
I
like,
know, it's like, how can you top that?
yeah, is that the whole it's okay to not be okay is fine, but really there's a reason why to sit with the being comfortable with those feelings. So if you're having a bad day or a dark day, they come, they happen, it's life. But there is light. But don't try and say, don't dismiss your own feelings by saying, oh, everything will always be better. It'll just be better. Just go with it, feel it. Today's crap. I feel crap. Process it. Let it happen. It will pass. And then you'll have a better day, maybe tomorrow or the day after or the next hour. You might even feel better. 'Cause sometimes that can even be like that for me. So my way of dealing with things maybe would help somebody else, which is feel the feel, feel the feels, go with it. Don't dismiss it. Don't say it's anything other than the true feeling that you're having right now. And don't let anyone else tell you that it's anything else. So if somebody says, "Oh, you're being dramatic,"
Over
or
dramatic, yeah.
or you're making a thing of it.
Yeah.
Well, ignore them, push them down, because and just feel what you need to feel right now because it's important.
Yeah, like what I do in the one-to-one sessions is like I go feel it, lean into it, and then let it go. Because the
Yeah,
leaning in is where we learn where it's coming from, because we're bringing awareness to that emotion. And it's very important to feel the emotion, even the tough ones, like the raw ones that could literally open us up. But once we bring awareness to it, going, I feel sad because of this situation, and then we let it go. Because like I always say to my clients is like our emotions are like waves. Have you ever like watch the waves coming in from the sea and they
absolutely.
build up and they build up and the white horse starts and then it just peaks, the wave just peaks and then suddenly it starts to subside and then disappear back into the sea. That's exactly the flow of our emotions. And when
Totally
we
agree.
and when we like that's why it's so important for us to connect to the sea, you know what I mean? And water, lakes, anything, it reminds us of that flow of emotion that runs through us all. But it just depends how much that wave is. And we always know when the wave will eventually recede. Even if the toughest emotions will never stay with us, they will always recede.
Totally.
Thank you so much for joining me. It has been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about my school off camera. Get the goss. But yeah, look, thank you so much. I hope our listeners got a lot out of our conversation, and we will hopefully hear from you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being part of the Healing Circle today. If something in this conversation touched you, let it land gently. You don't need to rush to understand it. Your body already knows. Remember, your story matters, and when it's shared in the right space, it has the power to heal, not just you, but others too. If you feel called to explore this work more deeply, you'll find links to my sessions, retreats, and offerings through Embodied Energy Wellness in the show notes. Until we meet again, go gently, stay connected, and trust the wisdom within you. Thank you for being here.